one of the tragedies, there's many tragedies to the October 7th war and massacre. One of the many tragedies is that Israel does not have leaders. Israel is leadership, it does not have a leader. Technically, Netanyahu is a leader, and even if you're from the minority of people that think that he's a great statesman, he's a great statesman, he's not a leader, because he doesn't actually give a crap. You could just tell with the way he talks. So again, could be strategically he got things right, could be he used to be that way, he doesn't care directly from the way he describes things. It doesn't seem like the weight of the Jewish people are on him. But at this point, it seems like there's like a, I don't know exactly what goes on in his head. Nobody really knows. It doesn't seem like he cares. There's a lot of infighting in Israel, and that's why the animals attacked. The enemies of Israel are much more sophisticated now. This is not your typical PLO. What was he? He wasn't a narcissist. He was a psychopath. Yasser Arafat. This is not your typical idiot 1960s Syrian people that got fooled by Eli Cohen, or the people that got fooled by Wolfgang Lutz in the Egyptian army. The Egyptians, whatever. You're not talking about that. You're talking much more sophisticated people. They're evil, the venomous, the evil, very, very, very evil people that Israel was attacked by, and they're dogs, they're animals, and they sensed weakness. When an animal senses weakness, that's when he pounces. And they sense weakness in Israel because they're fighting between each other, and it's called Mechamas Achim, War of Brothers, and that's really the issue in Israel, the internal fight. Because if Israel was united, I don't think the enemies would have been able to strike. Enemies correctly saw Israel as weak. I mean, think about it. In 1967, look at a map of Israel in 1967. It was massive. They went away from the Sinai. In 1979, Carter, who ended up being a horrible person, doing a horrible thing. He's a good man. He's a really sincere, good man. They ended up forcing Israel to give away Sinai, so they lost the oil. And where is Hamas getting its arms from? A lot of it's from Egypt. The tunnels from Rafah into Egypt. Besides, it would have been able to control Gaza a lot easier if they had that land. They withdrew from that in 1979. Then in 1990s, they gave away power to the PLO in the West Bank. Then in 2005, they withdrew from Gaza. And then they thought about withdrawing, and then withdrew from Lebanon. They thought about withdrawing from the Golan Heights. Thankfully, they didn't, because look how what happened with Syria today. So Israel's been on the receding end, withdrawing all the time, being extremely weak. The understanding why is not just political; it's just the people that are in charge of Israel. They had this fantasy, including Moshe Dayan and Ben Gurion and all those people until Begin. Begin messed up with the 79 thing, but he never had that fantasy. He was a very proud Jew. But until Begin, all the leaders of Israel convinced that they're going to one day sit at a coffee shop in Paris on footing with Voltaire and with Winston Churchill and with the academic from Germany and the philosopher from Russia and the American diplomat. And they're going to be one of the people, because they're finally going to be, because modern Zionism is, we're a regular nation amongst nations, we're going to be accepted by everyone else. And they didn't know what to do, so they said, okay, we'll do everything we can just to get the approval. So they were very, very powerful militarily, very smart, very powerful, but the reality was, but not really, when it came down to it, they're very powerful, very confident, but very low confidence, of a low self-worth, dying for approval from the world. Bibi doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. He knows what the deal is. So he wouldn't help. It's not, or at this point, it's not bowing to American pressure. At this point, Israel, everything's being paid for by Israel, by America. Not everything. A lot is being paid for by Israel. So it's a codependent relationship, and therefore you have to do everything America says. Well, if they didn't do that in the 1960s, what would happen? Israel would be just as powerful, if not more powerful. What would happen? How would they deal with Iran today? They wouldn't let Iran build up. They would bomb the crap out of Iran, just like they bombed in Iraq in the early 80s. They didn't ask America permission, they just did it. They attacked first in 67. 72 didn't attack first because America said it's not going to look good, there's Arab oil, whatever, and Israel lost its standing with power. The people around Israel are nasty, they're very animalistic, they're animals. Therefore you have to show them power. This idea that you're going to have a peace process and have a conversation, that itself is weakness. It's not what's in the peace process. The fact that you'll sit down with them and talk to them is weakness. It's like the Middle East, it's not the West. It's not you're not sitting in a boardroom in Florida, which a meeting, and then you have like a contract. You're like, oh, according to Article 442, you broke that contract, therefore we're going to sue. The person's like, no, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work that way. This is the Middle East. These are animals here. You see what they did. So the fact that Israel, I remember as younger, when I was younger, there was a second Intifada, and I used to hear this powerful, powerful, powerful man. His name was um, Ariel Sharon, and no, it wasn't Ariel Sharon. It was someone else that was a politician in Israel, and the guy was literally saying this. Can you imagine? We are ready to do. That's Ariel Sharon. I don't know who it was. We're ready to make painful concessions for peace. Painful concessions. Who the hell talks to animals, vicious animals next door to you that want your blood, and say we're ready to do painful concessions? So they've been doing that for a long, 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 long time. It never worked. The left in Israel, there's the far right. There's the right in Israel, which is the religious right, and there's religious left. Religious left is just as religious as the religious right. There's no difference. You say no, the left is more. They're more sophisticated. They're more scientific. They're more educated. They may be more educated when it comes to secular studies, but they're just as pathetically indrawn to their outlook of what should work. They're addicted to peace and they'll sell their children's lives on it. They're brainwashed deeply and convinced in a religious fanaticism that making peace with your neighbors is possible. Not only is it possible, it has to be done peacefully, and that's what's going to have coexistence. They're really convinced of that. The religious left is much more religious than the religious right. So I don't even know who's nastier, the religious left or the religious right in Israel. But they're kind of one of the same thing.